Hi, friends. Good evening to yet another session of InsightView series. Today we have with us a speaker who's finally going to be talking on insights. As the title of program itself is called. So, welcome, Naresh. Welcome to
You.
the InsightView series of the Advertising Club of Madras, and thank you for doing this. In fact, Naresh was supposed to join us during Maddie's. He was one of the jury for the last year of Maddie's. But there is something about Rains and Naresh, I guess. Last time he came to the airport at Delhi, one of the terminals was caught on a storm and it fell down and his flight got cancelled and he was unable to make it. And this time, when we scheduled this Inside View series, I was a little worried it becoming a little damp because of the storm, whatever the red alert in Chennai. But luckily, we were not affected by it. So, in a way, I think uh, it's too coincidental that Rains and Naresh, there is something attached. So, thank you once again. And I request Suraj to do a brief intro about our speaker, and then the floor is open to him. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anbu, and a warm welcome to Naresh and everyone in the group today in the room. It's very nice to see all of you back. We've got close to 40 participants as of now, and it's going to increase so long. Uh, we've got a very interesting session. I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it since the time we spoke to Naresh. I'm going to quickly introduce Naresh to all of you. Uh, Mr. Naresh Gupta has 3 decades across market research, marketing, and strategy planning. He's worked with Mudra, Jagatjit Industries, Contract, Grey, and Publicis. In 2012, he co-founded Bang in the Middle with Pratap Suthan. In these years, he's worked across brands, industries, and geographies. Today, Bang in the Middle is a leading independent agency that works across spectrum of clients and mediums. Outside of work, Naresh is a regular columnist, an avid stamp collector, and wildlife photographer. I welcome you, Naresh, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Here we are discussing something which either is very interesting or very opaque and oblique, and you really don't know what to say about it or do about it. So moving targets come from the fact that consumers are always moving. So if consumers are moving, do insights matter? But before I go there, why is it not moving? Okay, this is me. I am Naresh Gupta. This is my Twitter handle. You can see what I do. I mean, my bio says I work in advertising. I can't do anything about it, which is a fact. I do work in advertising. That's me on LinkedIn, normally loudmouth. Don't hold my opinions back and people hear it. Um, just to give you a bit of sense, this is where I grew up. I spent a part of my childhood at a place like this. Now, what you see is a very large water body. It's actually a limestone mine. My dad was a mining engineer. This is where we used to live. This now is an abandoned pit, about 70 feet deep, and this is filled with water. And not very far from where my home used to be after a while, this is Udaipur and the whole city of lakes. So as they were saying, Rains and me, I think me and water have some connection. So I've always been close to a water body. Now I live in a small town called Gurgaon, which is also a birding hotspot. And lots of these avian friends pass by as they are flying off, or they spend their winters here, or some spend their summers here. So this is what I am. And so the question of why do we need insights? Now, I don't know if you will have an answer at the end of the session to why do we need insights, but I do hope to provoke you enough to think through what we are doing and why we are doing. This is a session on advertising. I'll play you an ad.
Oh, hi. I'm Zina Kamal. Being an actor, easy. But being yourself, really, really tough. Finding yourself requires asking a lot of tough questions. Who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Oh, right. Now link your RuPay credit card on Fred to make UPI payment. Just like that. So now with Cred, your credit card is accepted everywhere. To buy anything. Well, almost everything. money can't buy love.
Okay.
So actually, oh hi. And that's really the question that we should all be asking, because I'd asked some of those questions. Why am I here? What am I doing? What's the purpose of me being here? And I don't know what this advertising does. I don't know what this brand does. It spent a ton of money. It spent a lot of chatter. It's created a lot of conversation. It's rebranded a very nice cricketer into something who's not so nice. It's taken an old flame and brought her back into relevance. All that has happened. But what's the insight? What's it doing? And this brand, after spending this kind of money, does not exist in the form that it was building in. So what was happening here? What did they do? So that's where the whole problem of advertising can start to exist. Now, if we pull you back, sometimes pulling back is a great way of looking at where we arrived from and what we are doing and what we are. Now, modern marketing is a product of capitalism and industrial revolution. So if you go back in history, this is what has happened. You've got shelves full of options and options and options and options, and you really don't know how to make one from another, how to choose one from another. So colors became important and form became important, and the way they attract you from the shelf became important. Now, industrial revolution of the 19th century greatly increased the number of goods and services available to world population. What happened with steam engine, what happened with railroad, what happened with machinery, factory, roads, improved agriculture, was the increase in economic capacity. What it meant was more production, and more production driving more consumption. Consumption led to more investment. More investment led to more production. Now, all of us have benefited from this. The state of Chennai, possibly in India, has been at forefront of doing this, building up the entire infrastructure of industries in India. That's what industrial revolution did. It got you things that you didn't know exist or can exist, or you need them or you don't need them. Now, this explosion of choices, it creates a cycle of consumption. And that is where the modern marketing theories all came up by. Or as I would say later, the entire bit of marketing theories and stuff like that that have started to appear in here. Now, positioning, segmentation, proposition, personality, all is a function of manufacturing of various things that have happened. Now, what has happened is marketing for long, I don't know, I can't see some of the. So marketing for long, as envisaged by modern masters, was a linear process. What do I mean by linear process? This is what I mean by linear process. That's how advertising agencies were born. Now, this is possibly world's first advertising agency. It was called N.W. Iyer and Sons. Now, I don't think this guy had any connection to the land of Ayers. This is just the name Iyer and Sons. This is the book that they had written at that point of time. This agency is responsible for creation of this campaign. The campaign still lives. A Diamond is Forever was done then. I think 1939 or something like that. And that campaign created at that point of time is still alive, it's still doing well, and it's still selling. Fittingly, the agency was hired to increase sale of diamond post the Great Depression. Now see where this entire bit originated from and what it did to the category. To tell people that to get married, you need a diamond was a thinking that was way different and way, so they understood the fact that wedding is a very, very big thing in anybody's life. And if you have to go and get married, then you have to create an event around it. Now, if you have to create an event around it, what can become a symbol of that event? And diamond was created as a symbol of that event. The industry flew, De Beers became whatever it became. And today, De Beers is all over the world doing the same thing. Now, coming back to moving times, do we expect the change to be major, systemic, or long-lasting? Now, just before this session started, we were talking of what's happening to traditional agencies, what's happening with digital agencies, how are the two moving, why is it one becoming more important than the other, does someone miss out on what happened? This whole bit of how the industry has moved is a big challenge that is happening. So let's pull back a little bit more and see what happens, because past is a very big teacher. This is per capita income of India. Now, from the time we became independent till the time it's available. Now, if you look at it, for years we were flat. There was nothing happening till about the 2000. At 2000, we saw a huge jump that started to happen. We've had a couple of flat years post that, but we've actually seen the per capita income rise and rise and rise and rise. Now, that's the good thing that has happened in India. So there is a bit of consumerism that came in, and that came in almost, say, about 30 years back. Before that, there was hardly any consumerism that was happening. As there are a lot of these jokes written that you could fly any airline you wanted till it was Indian Airlines. You could buy any color car till it was white. You could buy any brand of car till it was Ambassador. You could buy any scooter till it was Bajaj. So that's how India was. Now, if you again look at what is happening is this, we've seen the GDP growth go up and down till about a certain point of time. But then again, around 2000 onwards, we've seen this GDP largely stay on the upward curve and keep growing and keep growing. So as a country, there seems to be something that happened around 90s, and we started to transition and start to become a very different country from that point of time. The only point I'm making is we did see a very large dip sometimes in 2008-9, but then we went back and seem to be moving and doing whatever it is. Okay, but I need to pull you back and drive you to the year 2008. It's 15 years back, so we won't remember, but that was a terrible year. That was the year of global slowdown. That was the year when the housing crisis erupted in US. That was the year when foreclosures became a kind of conversation. That was also the year when India actually saw jobs disappear and contraction happened, and terrible year it was. It's not an easy year. And that is why I said, okay, if you look at, and in any country, one of the big indicators of how well the country is doing is to look at the data for automobiles, because that is a good indicator of upward mobility. That's a good indicator of what the country is doing and where the country is going, and where we can look at. Now, we did see a flat year sometimes at around 2008 when it started to come down, and it actually hasn't gone back to the levels it used to be at some point of time. 2019 was a very bad year for automobile industry, and I'm not saying cars. So sometimes we mistake automobile industry to cars. This is all the motorized vehicles the country sells. And it has not been it's not been a segment that has grown at the same speed. And this is just one category. So when we say insights, this is where it starts to become important. You can see the stress on a lot of categories that is happening. What's the issue? Why is it that it's happening? Because we have a growing population, we have a growing GDP, we have a growing per capita income. So what's happening? Now, what happens is economic disruptions have a greater and a deeper impact on consumer perceptions. And sometimes we don't even see it, because you don't see it. It doesn't happen like that. It takes a time for it to catch up. Now, every economic disruption comes with stress on capital, and that leads to drop in consumerism that impacts the whole world. And I stated before, marketing and advertising theories have been built on lateral actions. It's about speaking one thing to many people at the same time and reach as many people as you can every day. So advertising has been built on reach and frequency. We have chased 80% reach at 6+ OTS. And that's how all the advertising theories have been built and advertising planning was done. Guess what 90s called? They want their brand theories back. None of those brand theories are working. In fact, it's very interesting. If you go back to Kotler's new editions of books, he has junked a lot of what he wrote before. So even the guru of marketing and marketing management is actually saying some of the stuff that he was teaching earlier in the first edition or second edition are no longer relevant. You know, go back to his, I think, 11th or 12th edition. It's very different from where he started. Now, the new marketing landscape is not linear at all. And that's where this whole bit of, how do we put it, traditional versus non-traditional, TV versus digital is a conversation that has happened in last 5-6 years. The broadcast model was under challenge for a long period of time. Then came COVID, people got locked up at home, productions went out of window, and you know what is happening after that. So there is digital, OTT, outdoors, experiential, VR, AI, all has added more to the confusion that the audience faces. The cricket match happening right now in Bangalore, people are watching it on linear TV, people are watching it on their phones, on their iPads, on their connected TV. And guess what? The license holder has a different inventory for TV, for connected TV, for tablet, for phone. So there is a huge difference that exists, and you can buy advertising at whichever medium you're wanting to. So we keep debating about the short attention span and the scrolling of reels on phones. I keep hearing this from everyone that Our attention spans have become shorter. We don't want to watch. We don't want to read. The new advertising bit is very complicated. The consumers have lost interest. They are just too. But is short attention span really the thing? I don't know if that's the real issue, because all of us do watch, binge watch content that goes for hours and hours on a single sitting. 8 episodes, 9 episode series are watched in one go. So you've actually watched 9 hours of content in one sitting, and then we debate that we have short attention span. I don't think short attention span is the real thing. It's just one of the observations that we are having. And that's what happens with insights. There is an observation that we have, and we start to believe that's the truth. I think what's happening is we get fed with a lot of content which has no meaning. So people keep scrolling by and keep passing by because that content has no meaning. And you stop at something that has a meaning, and which is where this whole bit of binge watching comes in. You have meaning, people start to binge watch. Short attention span is a bogey, and that's what I keep telling all my clients. It's a theory sold to us by media platform owners. It's a theory sold by Google advertising. It's a theory sold by Meta, because they want the advertising to happen on their platforms. And we as advertising folks and marketing folks have fallen hook, line, and sinker for it. It's not true. And that's, I think, what we should keep in mind, that our consumers have attention span. It's just that they may not be interested in what we are telling them and how we are telling them. And there is an industry that's growing at 100% year on year. We all know this industry. We all see this. We all saw this tamasha that happened. This is something that kept captivating the country. This is now, there was a small time when this industry saw a blip. The only time, I think, in the history of this industry where it saw a little bit of blip. Weddings happened on the platform from where we are connecting. So even that happened. But the most debated, discussed, shared event of the wedding is now a web series. So we will all watch this back again. Tell me about short attention span. We saw a wedding that lasted 8 months? And we are now going to watch that damn thing as a web series on OTT. So it is, attention span is what you get enamored by. So short attention span is not a universal truth. There are many ways of overcoming it. But then also what has happened is that our tech backbone in the country has transformed. The data available in multiple gigabytes, the government has become intrusive as hell. They want to know more than they should ever know. We are happy letting them into our house. We are happy letting them know what we are doing. Today, every single individual in the country can be profiled by the government, can become a bit of a gigabyte sitting in some server, and they can predict what this person will do or not do. That's how we have allowed them to. But the income disruption at this time is far sharper than it was in 2008. I'm just saying last 3 years, 4 years, we have seen this country change dramatically after the COVID thing that happened. All of us are seeing that in the businesses that we run. We are seeing a bit of that cyclicness. We are seeing that bit of up and down that is happening. And it's coming from that big black swan event that happened in 2020 and that big event that happened in 2008. This is RBI data. So this is as current as it gets. RBI measures consumer confidence every month and puts this data out in a, how do I put it, long-term track mode. If you see this, the consumer confidence indexes of the country have been on the negative side now for good 4 years. While it has risen a little bit, and it has risen from the time COVID hit to this now, but consumer confidence in the economy of the country by ordinary people is still in the negative zone. And this is told by Government of India. So this is not a private entity. This is not a foreign entity. And on everything that they're measuring, which is on economic situation, employment, price level, income, spending, consumer confidence index, there are problems that they are seeing everywhere. So even when we believe that our country is doing extremely well, our GDP is rising, our per capita incomes are rising, the consumer confidence is a huge issue. It is not really rising. It is not going up. It is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So we might be seeing the rise of anti-consumerism. Now, one of the things that I keep talking a lot of time is if there is culture, there is counterculture. It's the counterculture that creates categories. It's a counterculture where lots and lots of new things get born. Is anti-consumerism something that is starting to become a big thing? We are more and more looking at rise of what are called need simplifiers. Now, what are need simplifiers? They don't need to look at the categories in a very complicated way. They actually want to be simple. So they look at the fashion industry and say, why so much of confusion? Why so much of protocols? Why so many things to do, not to do? Can I just be in jeans and a t-shirt? Now, the whole category called jeans and t-shirt then started to become this fit, that fit, and stuff like that. Eventually came a brand called Buddha Jeans, which simplified all of that and said, you can be as chilled out in your pajamas as you can be in your jeans, and the jeans and pajama can match. So there is this whole bit of need simplifiers that are existing. There are also climate warriors who exist, and they can be called degrowth activists, because this is what in the city that I live in, we keep experiencing, we keep facing. There is the haze, there is the pollution, there is all of it, which is a symbol of growth. But suddenly in 2020, when COVID hit and lockdown happened, that haze went away and suddenly everything got clean and clear. And so people started to say, do we really need the progress that we are looking at? Do we really need to go through this entire bit that we are going? And there was a huge debate that started to happen, that should the agriculture be relooked at? Should our own factories be relooked at? Should we actually move people out of this city? Do we need to build the way of building the highways? So there is a whole bit of pressure group that exists across spectrum in India, which will question the entire growth dynamics that we have and the way we are planning our growth. And the third anti-consumer groups are the same food activists. You know this guy very well, but you may not have heard of a brand called Holy Crap. Now, this is a brand older than our food farmer. It exists in the Western world. It actually says everything that is crappy is not there in the brand. There are also these brands like Earth Balance and Whole Foods and stuff like that, which have all come into being of taking the entire health challenge head on and say, you need to look at your food differently. Now, here is actually the more interesting part. This whole bunch of people is making you move towards a little more expensive choices, because as the quality of ingredients start to come in, the cost starts to go up. So collectively, everybody is trying to push you to become a little more expensive and a little more upmarket and a little more evolved in the choices that you are making. Is there a question somebody is asking? I can take the questions at the end of it. That I think will be easier, because otherwise I won't know what is happening. And the fourth group that we have seen the biggest fillip at these times are the conservation activists. There are a lot of these guys who are ESG has started to become a big thing. People are talking about it. PETA used to do this campaign. This has started to globally become such a big thing. There are many, many brands that are riding this bandwagon of trying to be earth focused and good for earth and stuff like that. So will anti-consumerism change marketing? Now that's fundamentally where marketing doesn't belong. Marketing is about making you consume more, but we are seeing anti-consumerism happening, and that is starting to look at the whole bit of what can happen, and maybe those are where future things may start to lie. Now, marketing is an economic system devoted to continuous and unending growth. Now, if at any point of time growth starts to taper, we start to have a problem. It makes the assumption that people have an unlimited appetite for more and more goods. We know it's not true, but that's how we work. We actually keep selling things to people they don't need. And it works very well, because people have been told that you should upgrade your lifestyle. People have been told that old is not always good. You should keep on moving to new. And that is how we've made our entire career and made our entire industry work. We know this assumption is no longer as unhindered as it was just months earlier. And this disruption will have direct short-term impact. We saw that a little bit while. We've seen a little bit of that change. But what it means is that the way we did marketing will start to be questioned. Not that it wasn't being questioned earlier, but this will now start to gain a lot more momentum, where people will say not everything that is happening. And I'm not saying from a media spend perspective. That's nuts and bolts of what is happening. This I'm saying from a much wider perspective. So the linear marketing model was already under pressure. And the new paradigm was completely changed by the digital marketing bit that they came in. They actually told the brands that reach and frequency is not the only way to look at. Engagement and response is also something that you can look at. So while there is reach and frequency, but there is engagement and response. And can you bring all four things together? If you brought all four things together, there is a new way of looking at the entire marketing landscape. Till now, digital has been the support medium to mainline, owing to the lower reach of net. But today, internet is a transformational force. I think in last 4 or 5 years, internet has done something that no other medium has grown at the speed it has grown. There are 954 million active internet users in India. That and it's now actually reaching the same level or higher than TV viewership. So look at the way internet has reached every home, every hand, and it moves with you. So TV is hidden inside the home. This is now what's moving into you. Roughly, there are 300 million active internet users in rural India. And that again is something because we are now starting to match the TV reach of rural India. The internet is such a massive transitional force that is changing this country. We keep joking about WhatsApp. We keep joking about how people are hooked onto the phone, always on the phone and stuff like that. Part of the reason is this, it's access. And the access changes a lot of things. Access makes democracies transform. So if the entire way of governance can transform, imagine what it can start to do to marketing. I think next 3-4 years, we will see much greater change happen in our landscape and in our marketing than we have ever seen in our times. Now, we in advertising are the bridge between consumers and markets. We exist because consumers exist. We exist because markets exist. It's not always easy for brands to look at the market and look at consumers and say, okay, can we bring the two together? We bring the two together. So we start to become the bridge on taking a consumer sentiment, marrying it to very nice content, and bringing the markets to consumers. So that's a bridge that we work in. While retail and internet-driven retail has its own place, the real reason for our existence is to help customers. Now, how do we help consumers? We help them find sharp, we help them by giving them choices. We help them by making the choice. And if we are not sharp, intrusive, engaging, we will not have any reason to exist. Now, all advertising is intrusive. So all insights that we have to find have to be intrusive. If we are not intrusive and if we are not shaking the existing belief, we will not work as well as we are needing to work. Remember, the space in media has now become own the media. So more and more brands are now launching their own media. There are podcasts that they do strange kind of things where all the brands want to say is it's my media. I cut the clutter. It's my solar space. I don't want to go to another media. So own the media is one thing, and you're still on sometimes wanting to be in the wanting to buy the space in media, but that's transactional. The media space comes in today, it goes out tomorrow. But when you own the media, and that's what brands have started to do, it no longer remains transactional. It becomes I own it. And so insights matter even more today, hugely matter even more today, because it's all the stuff that we keep hearing about short attention span comes from the fact that we are not intrusive, we are not sharp, we are not engaging. So we have to find ways and means of being intrusive and engaging. Now, this is 4-year-old. I'll play you an example which most often we would have not seen, we would have not bothered about it because it doesn't come from our country. But watch this. This is a TV spot created for audience of 1. Now, can you imagine somebody created a TV spot? It was aimed at only one single individual. Watch this.
There's mourning in America. Today, more than 60,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored. With the economy in shambles, more than 26 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. Trump bailed out Wall Street, but not Main Street. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment. And with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America. And under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
Paid for by the Lincoln Project, which is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So I don't know how many of you, I'm so sorry. Hang on. Hang on, just a bit. What have I done? So this is what they did. This was a commercial that actually ran once. Now it got picked up. He picked it up and he tweeted. And this whole bit of why they are berating me and what they are saying and stuff like that. He went berating, and as typical a politician can be, full of bluster and just wanting to ride out of the storm that has happened to him. Now, because of Trump's tweets, that single commercial got 17 million views, and it raised $2 million in donations from 25,000 new donors. Now, imagine if you start to play this game. Now, this was an insight that they had, not coming from the content. Yes, the content had the insight, but it also came from the way the media should be played. They played that media in such an interesting way that the incremental reach that the campaign got, or the film got, was tremendous. And eventually it created all the problems for America that it created. So one TVC, one time airing, and we keep talking of influencer strategy here. The audience became the influencer. So the single person whom it was aimed at picked it up, spoke about it, and created a storm that Food Farmer created for Bonvita in India. It's the same thing. If Bonvita had ignored what he had said and allowed the business to go the way it was going, if suppose they had said that, yes, we have sugar, and we have sugar, would it have created the same kind of impact? I don't know. But this is what happens when sometimes advertising triggers you and makes you take an action which was not what you thought you should be doing. So coming back to it, the need to stand out, be seen, be heard, be engaged is much higher today than it was ever before in our history, because there are too many things to see, there are too many things to watch, and it's not the only messaging that comes from advertising. There are many more messages that come out, and people are busy watching a lot many more things than just the advertising that comes out. The only way brands can get noticed, be relevant, stay ahead, win the war for shares is by being insightful. When I say by being insightful, by being intrusive, by being into your eye line, by being seen, by being debated, by being talked. And that won't happen if you are not doing the sharp piece of work. Before I close, I want to share this insight. Marketers today are risk averse, and they are waddling in the sea of sameness. They just do not want to take the step out of the middle of the road that they walk. Remember, walking at middle of the road, you can get knocked over. It takes one car to come and you're gone. So it's our duty to push a bit of risk, push a bit of what has not been done before, and try and do stuff that changes the way it has been done till now. Consumers are not excited either by the advertising or the advertising professionals. In the social circles, if you tell them you work in advertising, it's no longer a response that used to say, oh, you work in advertising. It no longer happens. You work in advertising? Okay. And there is an opportunity. There is an opportunity of completely redefining the way you look at yourself, your business, your brands, and trying to do something by being sharper, by being clever, by being in your face. And thank you for indulging me. So that's all that I have to share on this piece.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naresh. I think some really good insights, and how it's led to what it is, I think has given us an eye opener, at least for me. We will open the session for a Q&A. Before that, I'd like everyone to, come on switch on the camera. We can, have this Q&A session open for the next 10, 15 minutes max, while Naresh could answer your queries. If you are shy to come on camera, please feel free to put it on the chat window and we'll still get those answered. We have a question, Naresh. The first one's from Shruti Arthi. Her doubt is, why is media and TV channels always showing particular sports like football, cricket, kabaddi, etc., when there are a lot more other sports to watch and enjoy? They even prepared, promos for 2020 matches, etc., but why not for other sports? This is one question which she's asked.
Which is the sport that you're missing watching?
She's mentioned football, cricket, kabaddi, etc. So
yeah, so I want to know which is the sport that she's missing watching. Now, the fact is Olympics was beamed into our homes. I don't know how many people saw rowing, kayaking, canoeing, weightlifting, boxing. I mean, those viewership, and it's now transparently available because there is a ticker on top of the TV that will tell you how many people are watching. Now, Javelin was not a sport. So it's very interesting. I should share this story with you guys. Sometimes one of the clients that we were working with, I went to them and said, sign up Neeraj Chopra. This guy is going to win a gold at Olympics. Okay, this is much before anybody had heard of Neeraj Chopra. The entire room full of 15 or 16 senior most marketing guys of that company looked at me and said, are you off your rockers? What are you smoking? Who is this guy? What is this sport? Why should we sign him? A year later, he won the gold at Guangzhou Asiad. The same brand signed him up, but did not sign him up with the time period that went till Olympics. So when he won the gold, they did not even have the right to wish him all the best.
Oh.
But that's so leave aside the broadcast guys. They will show you where they have money coming in from. If they don't have money coming in from that sport, they won't show. So football gets run by 4 or 5 brands, and then those brands put in money, football comes in. Cricket, we know, we stop all our work and start watching cricket. I'm sure all of you guys, some level, are peeping into the scoreboard or watching what is happening in Bangalore and stuff like that. So that's how we know what cricket does. But there are many more sports that India has started to watch. There is a revival in hockey. Kabaddi is interesting. Whoever thought that Kabaddi can even be a TV sport? But it's being pushed.
Right. I hope that's answered your question, Shruti. We have another question from Purani. By the way, Naresh, just for your information, we have a very large audience from the Government Arts College of Trichy.
Okay.
Yeah, so today, who's part of our, who's attending the session, we have close to 60 people in the room today.
Awesome.
So next question is from Purani. Her question is, she has a doubt. How does the video on Trump qualify as a commercial?
Oh, it's a paid commercial. It was shot and money was paid to the television channels. It ran on multiple channels, not one news channel. It's not digital. They put it on TV, on linear TV in those days.
Yeah, I think maybe she's asked the question because it doesn't technically look like a commercial. It's not like an ad format, but it is actually one.
Yeah, so if I can just elaborate on that. If you look at the way political advertising runs in America, they run with very simple rules. You have to announce that you are the guy doing this and this is your money going into it. So either the candidate comes at the end of the commercial and says, I'm Donald Trump and I approve of this message, or it comes in from We Are Lincoln Project and we are paid for this. So till that happens, you are allowed to say what you are wanting to say. If there is libel in it, if there is misclaim, you can be taken to court. And unlike India, courts in America are faster. So you will not escape that. So this is a pressure group which exists. I mean, I'm sure the pressure group exists even for this election. But for me, this was really interesting on the way they played on ego of the man. And that's where the whole insight lay. That you can trigger the man and make him do things and say things that he otherwise won't say.
And they collected $17 million for that. So,
oh, man, he lost the election.
Yeah. Wonderful. The next question comes from David. The question is, are there instances where intrusive approaches backfire? When should we pull out?
By definition, advertising is intrusive because it makes you stop doing what you are doing. Advertising backfires when you try to be clever. So when you start to question, there was Dabur that did some shit with, sorry for the language, with the Karwa Chauth commercial, I think 4 or 5 years back. It showed 2 women getting married and one keeping the Karwa Chauth Vrat for the other. Now imagine. Now you tell me that this will not trigger people and you will not get hauled up in coal. But this was, I think, by design. They wanted people to get offended. They wanted that media storm to happen out of it. I think they kept their apologies ready, quickly pulled out the ad. I don't think you will find it on the digital medium anymore because they pulled out all of it. But that was, I don't know how to put it because everything else I'm saying is conjecture, but they did create a commercial in which 2 women got married and one kept fast for the other on Karwa Chauth. Now that is bad marketing.
Right. We have Krishnan who's, happily switched on his camera and being kind to see and talk to us. Krishnan, do you have a query? Please feel free to ask. You'll have to unmute yourself. Indra, could you unmute his window, please?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you raise your hand, sir? Because
I mean, no, on the, she'll have to go through the list. There's a hand raise button, raise hand button on the window. So if you click that raise hand, just go down, Indra, you'll see it. It's Krishnan Sivaraman. Asked to unmute.
I'll check.
Yeah, he's unmuted, yes.
Yeah, see, hi Naresh.
Hi.
It's me.
Yeah, I
A
know.
long
Hi.
time.
Yeah.
See, basically before I forget, the Karwa Chowk, people don't, most in Chennai won't know because I was there in Bombay, so I know it. Maybe, that context of Dabur, I don't know whether people would understand here. That is one
I'm
thing I
sure.
just wanted to tell you that. So, and apart from that, it is nice that, we could meet now at least. So we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Suraj, we were colleagues at Mudra.
Oh, lovely. That's nice. Good to know.
Yeah, we were two junior executives at the same time.
Oh, lovely. That's a good meetup.
Okay.
Great. Do you have any queries, Krishnan, or we can move on with the rest of the QA?
See, I still wonder, being that, old school, I'm still yet to catch up with this, the digital media. Here, I think, in the forum, we have lots of people who are in the new generation. And how this, the old media is going to be there in next 5 years or 10 years, how we have to look at it as an advertiser.
Okay, now let me try and answer this question to you in 2 or 3 different ways. We have not seen ownership of TVs fall. We have actually seen the ownership of TVs go up. We have seen the connectivity of a DTH fall. So the medium is not the problem. The way content is pushed to that medium has changed. We are still watching content on TV in the way content on TV was watched. The way that content is coming has changed. So earlier, you could not do a layer on the ad and make it clickable and stuff like that. Today, thanks to servers and ads being pushed through a server, you can real time do that. But that's the only change that has happened. It's still a message from the brand that comes to you. All the stuff that is relevant, which is who's your audience, what is it that you want to say, what is that you know about them, is still relevant. It's just the way it comes to you has changed. The real challenge that has happened is that there is a new medium that you carry with you, and that medium is called a phone. And so the phone has started to eat into the time of television. So typically what will happen at this point of time, a lot of people would watch match on the big screen, but also follow it on the small space to know what is happening, what's not happening, quickly peek and stuff like that. The digital guys will tell you that they have a way to address this. They will tell you that they can make this multi-device audience work for you. So there are tools available, much like the tools were available earlier to say which channel, which time, and stuff like that. So yes, it's just the dynamic that has changed. But I think the issues that the brand faced then to now have not changed.
Okay. And what is the scene of research? We used to slog out, day in and day out, stay in the office and do it, for our ad research and market research, what we used to slog. Now, I mean, with this digital era, so what is happening in that? See, I am slightly out of date, okay? So don't mind this question.
All I can tell you is there is only one research agency left in the world. It's called Kantar. So that tells you what's happening to the world of advertising and the world of research. Everybody else is an opinion pollster. So they all come on TV and tell you who will win. But true blue market research agency is only one. Everybody else has become part of Kantar. No, so a lot of that needs to happen. So that was a correct practice to do. A lot of that needs to happen. And brother, what has happened of late is that the campaigns have become transactional. So campaigns don't last beyond 4 months. You need one burst and you're out of that campaign. Nobody is measuring the ad fatigue. That whole bit that people used to measure at some point of time of ad impact and ad fatigue and the decay levels and stuff like that is not being measured. But the big advertisers still find their own ways and means of measuring it and having a point of view on that. So if you're a big advertiser and you're spending a ton of money on creating a deal for your brands, I'm sure they are measuring. I mean, there was a time when I know Levers used to run a panel which used to measure impact of jingles. All of that might have way and different things might have started to happen. But yes, research is in a bit of flux and actually has bigger issues facing them than we guys in advertising have.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Krishnan. We have one question from Umarnath Media News View. Can you justify the statement short attention span is not a universal truth?
Oh, it is not. I've always said short attention span is being sold to us by Google and Meta. Because it works for them.
Can you justify that with some fact?
Ask PVR will tell you they love people who can sit for 3 hours. And if you can sit for 3 hours, the same people are being told they have short attention span. No, I don't know how to do a justification between the two. But I think a lot of youngsters will tell you that when they get down to studying, they are focused and they do what needs to be done. Short attention span, I think, is a euphemism to say there is too many bad content going and nobody watches it.
All right. We have another question from Rob. He has two questions, in fact. One, does AI affect future traditional ad makers?
Oh, it does very badly. No, and more than ad makers, it affects the brands because we've all built our narratives on saying you need to be authentic. Now, AI is not authentic. And that's a huge issue. And we really haven't seen the bad impact of AI. It's very early, but we will start to see lots and lots of trouble.
Second part of the question, in the past, there were many creative ads and advertising contained stories like a small short film. But nowadays, all ads are showing only celebrities. How do you see it, sir?
Lazy on part of advertisers, lazy on part of agencies. That's it. Because, see, that's the whole issue. The easiest way to cut clutter and easiest way to get noticed is to bring big stars. And then it becomes one of those things of the category. Now, if you have 3 or 4 players in the category, which have big stars, then the 7th, 8th, 9th player in the category is left with no choice but to bring in big stars. Now, in India, the problem is our stars only come from films and cricket. There is no third source. There is no third celebrity available in the country. And that is why you start to see a sea of sameness. So same face endorsing 20 brands. And that's where the whole bit starts to become a problem. If you marry the right celebrity with the right brand, it's very, very effective. But when the celebrity is used indiscriminately, then the clutter goes away. I mean, that the whole impact starts to wane.
Right.
Okay, in this, I just wanted to tell you this, recent ad of Nike. This Rafael Nadal, when he retired, they just showed the ball and tied that Nike mark on that. So that was, that has created a great impact. It is doing the rounds even with the non-advertising people, which I have noticed. Now, at least in my circle, which is non-advertising circle, at least about 600 people have respond to that. That is one. Secondly, this, still this, our own Amul ad, okay, that, that's still, whether you have, celebrity or not, actually, maybe the name is taken. And, they still, it maintains the same strategy, and, they are, the ad, the position of the ad in the, literal position, I'm saying, not the marketing position. It is placed in the same place where it's been there for ages. So these things are also, thrive, all these years. How this happens?
The only answer no one has to that is that what would have happened if Amul had a pressure from a very aggressive fighter in the market who was pushing them out of the market share? Would they have continued doing what they did? Now, there is no answer to that question. A lot of times you have to change because you're forced to change. Nobody forced Amul to change. So that's where I think Amul's lucky.
I think, this answer, it will give lots of thinking process to all the advertisers who are present today.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Naresh.
We have another 4 minutes to go, Naresh. Thanks, Krishnan. We have 2 more questions which we can take, one is from Purani, which is, could you please give a quick overview of the latest trends in market research?
Very difficult to do a quick trend on market research, primarily because market research agencies are owned by advertising agencies. They are not truly independent. There are hardly any independent market research agencies. So a lot of what they do, for instance, bulk of money of Kantar comes from audience measurement. So if you look at it, the audience measurement piece that happens all over the world, the people meter and stuff like that, is run by Kantar in many, many markets. So that is what drives them. But I don't know if you guys know, and even if Krishnan knows, the analysis piece of market research has been outsourced. The agencies don't create analysis.
Analysis, yes.
Is given to somebody else. They put it on tables. The Excel sheets are fed back to the research guys. I would suspect that a lot of professionals in research agencies today are not true blue analysts. They are guys who do more, how do we put it? Interfacing with the client on saying, this is what we have heard back and stuff like that. It's not that they have analyzed the data that has come to them. That skill has been outsourced. So those people lie outside the ambit of what's called market research. More and more market research, this is the, how do we put it? You have access to connectivity today. And you can actually be very quick with data and come out of it. But there isn't somebody doing that. However, there are enough and more people who are using internet and internet-enabled devices and internet-enabled processes to give you much quicker results. So what has happened is earlier what used to take 1 month to do the research has now come down to doing it in 1 week. That crunch has definitely happened. So that's the good bit of market research that has happened. But for everyone, and from the time I worked in market research, the word we have said is research, which means you are figuring it out what has happened. It's not a discovery. Nobody can predict what will happen in future. And that is where advertising comes in. Advertising takes a punt on what will happen tomorrow.
Right. We'll take this one last question from Radhika before Manath gives the vote of thanks. Radhika asks, does Cred Ad invoke the same impact as MCL Ad, invisible product category? Your thoughts?
MCL sold a product and sold it very well. And suddenly MCL entered a lot of homes, even if they didn't know of MCL. I don't know what Cred did. And Cred, I don't know if all you guys have ever thought what you are doing because you gave a third party access to your bank account. So what Cred actually did is read your bank account and know where you're spending money, how you're spending money. So today, cred is a payment lender. I mean, it is a money lender. It gives you loans. So whatever they were doing with Zeenat Aman and Rahul Dravid and Sonu Nigam and stuff like that, they are not doing that anymore. They've read you. They now know how many times you've defaulted on the credit card payments that you had to pay. So here is money. Please take money from us and pay the credit card bill and pay us 20% interest. So does it do the same job? No, it doesn't. Cred is a waste of money.
And now I think they've got the entire ecosystem. They're trying to get your car, your insurance, your entire spending pattern as a consumer into that one app. Right?
And they've stopped advertising.
Or until IPL happens again.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have the time to take one more question? David has asked one, Naresh.
Sure.
Okay, one last question, which is, in practice, does an idea precede an insight, or is it the other way around? Enough analysis can strategically justify any insight, isn't it?
Pre or post, yes, it can be justified, but I think insight should always precede the idea. In fact, every creative guy who has worked in this business will tell you that they need an insight to start thinking. And that's where they keep pushing for what they call as brief. Very often that brief is a messy diaper is a different matter, but they push for the brief because that's what triggers their thinking. Now, and I can tell you this from experience, where you start from and what stimulus you give to creative, where they end is never linear. The jump is discontinuous. So a lot of advertising stories that if you go back to, the planner said something, but the result of that set is very, very different than what you imagine it would be, because that's how the creative brains work. They see things that you don't see.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Naresh. Over to you.
Nice for having me.
Thank you, Naresh. It's my responsibility to vote of thanks. So thanks for this. You took like a rapid fire right from the beginning, started with why do we need insights? And then you went on to blast it. I was thinking that there will be some pass to explain, and you're loading with points and statements after statements after statement until the discussion about the cred and its purpose, all that. It was a fantastic spellbound, and started with linking modern marketing with the industrial revolution, and added some theories, and then the growth of per capita income and GDP, and how it has progressed on to change our transformation in marketing, advertising, and media. And then you linked automobile industry performance with the market sentiments. Then you went on to make a bold statement that short attention span is a bogey and not an universal truth. It's a headliner, and definitely. And then you went on to say how things changed after post-COVID. The consumer confidence index progressing in negative direction. Yes, this is a very short data which I've been noticing, and good that you got it out actually. In fact, the savings are dwindling. That is also a data that we are noticing. RBI data also says that we are withdrawing our savings and we are spending. That's the reality. And impact of rise of anti-consumerism is something that, and how it is going to impact. You just took us through some thought-provoking statements like need simplifiers, degrowth, and conservation activism, and all that. It's really for marketers and advertisers. Yes, we need to think, because we just coin words positively like purposeful, meaningful, all that. But these are the real hard-hitting facts, and we need to take on to proceed further. And then on to how the digital marketing has, transformed from reach-oriented to engagement and response of trapping the consumers. So advertising is finally you said that it's a bridge between consumer and market, and media, how it has to be into, it needs to be sharp, intrusive, and engaging to stay relevant. And then also you said for marketers, be relevant, face the war of, win the war of shares, and stay away from the risk averse and get into the sea of sameness. Swim against. So is what. And finally, you also said some bold statement about the Amul ad being remaining unchallenged because there is no competition. That's another thought provoking in this evening. We all have to. So thank you, Naresh. And 12 years before you took the plunge, today we are realizing every week a new boutique agency or some agency, some ad veteran is launching, but you forecasted it 12 years before and you launched. I've been covering you almost since I got into this trade media, and I was wondering what is this bang in the middle. We have been listening the names of Leo Burnett's, Ogilvy's, and how suddenly coining and different name. Then came the agency names. People started naming it so fancy. What's your problem? So many, so on and so forth. You are the one who started it up.
So if I can stop, we had a genuine problem. If we had named after ourselves, the agency would have been called GAS, Gupta and Suthan.
Okay. So we have been witnessing every week some of the other ad veterans launching new agencies. So it is a symbolic representation that the industry is in a huge transformation. So the network models and the individual, driven models. So all this is a sign of transformation. Let's wait and see. And really, InsightView webinar series, it is another one today, because almost every time, every session, we take pride in bringing in versatile people. So this time it was insights, and that too from a veteran like Naresh is a wonderful thing. So I hope our members and attendees would have loads and loads of takeaways. And we will assure you that we will come out with more such sessions with excellent thought leaders, and keep your interests, learning levels at high always. We thank the Presto team for the design, Deep Sense for the digital promotions, and myself, Media News, for the trade support. And signing off until we engage you in another interesting session of InsightView series. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Naresh. Hope to catch you in another engaging forum.
Thank you. Thanks, Naresh. Thank you, Mark.